Are you downsizing? Maybe need more room because of additions to the family, or possibly seeking that dream home you've always wanted? Well, Tim Eisner at Royal LePage Atlantic is the guy for you. With a proven track record and multiple awards, Tim goes above and beyond to find out your needs and exactly what you're looking for. So if you're seeking a new home or trying to sell your current one, contact Tim at 902-499-5717 or check him out on Facebook at Tim Eisner. Again, that's 902-499-5717. Trust me, when all is said and done, we'll be saying Tim Eisner strikes again. Hey, what's going on? Another week is upon us. Hope everyone is ready for the holidays, because we all know they'll be here sooner than we expect. Me for sure, because I'm one of those last minute shoppers, so they creep up on me really quick. Anyway, welcome to episode 74 of Outside the Chute. I'm your host, Randy Frame. This week's OTC Player of the Week comes to us from California, as Natalia Flores takes home the weekly honors. Natalia hit .429 with a home run and 6 RBIs last weekend while competing at the 18U USA Thanksgiving Tournament with the OC Bat Busters Salmarin team. Great job, Nat. Best of luck going forward. On to this week's guest, and we sat down and chatted with former USA Men's National Team member and recently inducted ASA USA Softball of PA Hall of Famer, Bill Hillhouse. Billy has had a fantastic career playing all over the world. He spent 8 seasons playing down in New Zealand, 1 in Australia, and numerous back home in the US. In 1993, he became the youngest pitcher to play on the US men's national team and proceeded to win the Most Valuable Pitcher award at the Pan Am tournament that same season. During his playing career, he also became an ISC Commissioner from 1997 until 2013, and now runs his own pitching instruction called House of Pitching. We're going to talk to Bill about getting a start in the game back in Pennsylvania, what it was like to travel the world at a young age, being named to the U.S. men's national team, and much, much more. Bill was so awesome to chat with, as the guy is an encyclopedia of knowledge when it comes to our great game. So as usual, grab that drink, sit back, relax, because here we go.
I got the world in my palm, like camera action, it's on. I can't describe what I'm feeling, ain't never felt this freedom. I got the world in my palm, like camera action, it's on. Ain't never felt this freedom. Could you say that anything goes, anything goes, anything goes, anything goes, anything goes, anything goes.
Hey, man.
Hey, Dick. How are you?
Good. How's it going?
Good, man.
Good. It's funny. We were just talking, like, what are we going to talk about?
We're still talking.
We're just, I said, let's freestyle.
Weather's changing.
Yes.
Getting colder.
A little chilly.
Cold, damp. I think we had 800 milliliters of rain in the last 2 weeks.
See Moncton yesterday?
Oh,
the snow?
I know. It's a mess. Yeah.
Oh, I was like, oh, that can stay wet.
And they just had all that rain too, and then everything freeze. Oh man, it's a mess right now.
Yeah, it's talking to
COVID weather.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, like when I was talking to who was I just talking to? Emma Ensminger there. She lives out in BC, and talking about all the rain out in BC, and
they're pretty much, if I'm not mistaken, they're like, I don't know how to say, landlocked, because
they're cut off.
They can't ship stuff. I know we're affected with my business.
Yeah.
With getting equipment, because it's arrived in BC and they can't get it on a train.
Roads and trains are screwed. And
man, that's crazy.
I know. Unreal. I mean,
it's scary to see that.
Talk
stuff.
about global warming and weather changes. I mean, it's pretty obvious.
Goddamn COVID.
Yeah. When in doubt, blame COVID.
Yeah. Now we have that new strain of COVID, with Omicron or something. Oxymoron, whatever it is. That's starting to creep into places. I saw there was in Quebec, and they had a case in Quebec and something in Ontario.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, man.
It's just, I don't know.
Never ending.
At this point now, I'm just like, well, we're living with it.
Yep. We are.
Yeah.
As long as they don't start doing random bum checks or for COVID tests.
That'd be terrible.
Yeah.
That'd be terrible.
Yeah.
I was talking to you there before we start recording. The boys were out with Brian Gillis there last night. Got a little workout in.
I will say, and hats off to Brian, because Brian has really grabbed the reins this year, and he wants to become a bona fide pitcher, which he can. The guy's an incredible athlete.
Yeah.
But he said to Justin and to Jeff Frazier that to Schofield, and he wants to work on it and become a bona fide number 1, number 2, 1A, 1B, whatever it is for next year, which is huge for us. But with that being said, he runs a gym. Yeah. So he's got our guys going to the gym, and I saw a couple videos of them pushing that friggin' sled, and holy shit. Yeah.
Guarantee a Scope was sweating.
Oh, he was sweating on the drive there. So great for them, though, and so great that Brian's running that for them.
Oh, absolutely.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to Mark Quinn, too, or Quinner in PEI. So my son is in PEI right now, and he called me today and said he went and worked out with Quinner last night. Awesome. He helped run some skills for his girls team that's over there. Jake helped Quinner.
Oh, nice.
And then afterwards they stayed from 9 till 10:30 and worked on some defensive plays and also worked on hitting an inside rise.
Excellent.
Inside drop. Yeah. So hats off to Quinner for doing that for my son, for one thing.
Thanks a lot, Quinner.
Yeah, I love that. Guys are working at it, so it's good.
Absolutely. Actually, back to Brian for a sec. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
If, all the talent's there. Like, I mean, the guy's a natural athlete. Yeah. And if he, becomes a bona fide, but he also can hit a ton.
And he can play any position.
Yes.
And hit.
Yeah.
He's crazy, man. The guy's just, he's a beast.
Hockey player. Here he was a goalie his whole life, and now he's in our gentleman's league just racking up points like they're going to Stowe. I'm like, come on, man. I've been playing forward my whole life, and I'm like 20 points behind.
I heard he got in a fight last week over something.
Yeah, him and New for getting at it with other guys, brothers sticking up for each other. And,
oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I don't know exactly what happened, but
anyway, it's good.
Well, anyway. Yeah. So we got...
time out. Oh, okay. Shout out happy birthday to my best friend, Lolly.
As we record this on Tuesday night.
But happy birthday, Lolly.
Yes, sir.
We do love you, man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anyway, to our guest, we're going to be talking to...
Mr. William Hillhouse.
Billy Hillhouse. Actually, as of yesterday, just got inducted to the ASA USA Softball of PA Hall of Fame, which was great timing.
Huge, I guess, for the podcast. Congratulations. Big congratulations. I'm sure we'll talk to him about it.
Definitely talk to him about that. But Billy's played all over the world, and he's seen a lot of ball, and I'm sure he has some pretty good stories to tell. Yeah, for sure. So I mean, those are always the best guests that come on to can tell a good story. Yeah,
100%. Yeah. He's been around and he's played lots, and he's met lots of people, and he had Shalesy and Adam Folkrat lived with him for 2 years.
Couple years.
It's pretty cool stuff.
And he got to pitch side by side with Peter Meredith for a couple years. I mean, geez, come on, man. Yeah. Can't wait to talk about Meredith and find out what he's all about. But
I actually played once against Bill in a tournament in Boston.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that in the chat before. So what was that? What was that tournament?
I don't even know what it was. I was Jeff Cameron was playing on a team. He got called to pitch for his team from Boston, and they needed a shortstop. So Jeff asked me if I wanted to go. I was like, hell yeah. Went down there with my pants and my gear, and Brian Urquhart's pants, in fact. I can tell the story about that too. But went down.
Were they tight?
Well, it wasn't that they were tight. This is so we played in the field where there were no bathrooms. Okay. And we were there all day. And we were out the night before drinking, of course, because when we got there, the host took us out and just got us annihilated. Like, I was like, this is what it's like. This is incredible. So we went to the ball field the next day, and I tried to leg out an infield hit across the bag, and I sharted my pants. Well, in fact, I sharted Erky's pants. Yeah, I can remember when we got home, I told him the story. I said, Erky, I shit in your pants. He goes, they're your pants.
I can't believe I never heard this before.
Yeah, it wasn't a fun story.
Oh, that's awesome.
Anyway, I did get to play against Bill down there, but he remembered. I actually mentioned to him in a Facebook Messenger, and he said, that guy that ran that thing was a shyster. I thought, was it Pete Porcelli? Fuck you, Pete.
You got that in again, man.
I will forever.
Oh, freak. Anyway, well, let's get to Billy and see what's going on.
Sounds good. Thanks, Erky.
I live for the moment. Yo.
All right, here we go. Billy, thanks for coming on the podcast, pal.
Hey, my pleasure. I'm a big fan of what you guys do.
Oh, appreciate it. How's things going down in Omaha today?
Well, we're having a little bit of uptick in the temperatures right now. It's been like almost 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 20 your temperature. So it's supposed to continue that way for the next couple of days. So I don't know if that means we're going to get crushed with snow right afterwards, but for the time being, it's pretty good.
Shit. I
So
would
nice.
love to have that temperature right now. Oh my God.
Fucking 2 degrees here.
Well, I think I just saw on Nick Shales' wife's social media that they had snow in Ontario.
That's right.
Is it snowing up your way?
No, we haven't. Well, we had a little bit, but it's all gone now.
We had snow in New Brunswick this weekend past, but we had a little bit of snow on the ground this morning, but then it was all gone.
Yeah. Nothing like Shalesy's. They got up there last couple of days. But,
they get all that lake effect.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're anticipating it now, so it's only a matter of time. Freak sakes.
Awesome.
It's winter.
Yeah,
fuck it.
Exactly. So I actually got to start off by congratulating you on your induction to the ASA USA Softball of PA Hall of Fame that got announced yesterday. What come as a surprise or?
A big surprise. Well, I got the call about 2 months ago that it was done and voted on and happening. And I didn't know that I was nominated or anything. So it was really a big surprise. And, it's really kind of neat. And I think there's a lot of inductees this year because they had to cancel last year because of COVID. So they looked like there's a lot of people going in this year, like 10 or 12. So, congratulations to all of them too. And it was a big surprise. So it's kind of nice.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I actually didn't know. Does USA Softball have like different branches through every state? So
yeah, every state has their own.
Okay.
And then there's a national one as well. And the requirements and the criteria to be in the national one is pretty significant. So I'm not going to make that one. But the Pennsylvania one is still, it's really kind of cool. I mean, like I said, it's to have my name in there with guys like Ty Stofflet and people like that. It's mind boggling to think about, and it's something you just question whether you really deserve it. When you see other guys' names in there.
Yeah, for sure.
Quite an honor. It's great.
Yeah, for sure. So you obviously you got your start in Erie, did you? Like when you're growing up?
Yeah, born and raised in Erie, and at the time I was a little kid, there was so much men's fast pitch softball in Erie, Pennsylvania, that they actually had morning leagues for guys that worked second and third shift, and they couldn't play at night in the rec leagues and stuff. And so that's basically how my brother and we grew up at the ballparks, because my father played in the morning league because he worked nights. And so, there was leagues, and I'm talking like multiple leagues, that were playing during the daytime, during the summers, because these guys didn't get a chance to play at night. And then there was all the leagues at different on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. There was all different leagues on all those different nights as well. So there was so much of it where I'm originally from. It was just insane. And to have morning leagues was just it just shows you how much there was.
Pretty unheard of. Is there still a lot of ball there now?
There's nothing in Erie, Pennsylvania left. I mean, even the last couple of years that I was running the Ed McCormick tournament, we really didn't have a league going. We had one sponsor who loved the game so much that he would basically fund the umpires and the fields and the maintenance of everything. And it was actually Ed McCormick, the namesake of the tournament, who just passed away last year. And he funded just so we'd play an exhibition game, just try to get 18 guys. In fact, we couldn't even get 18 guys at the end of it in Erie, Pennsylvania. We were bringing 3 down from Ontario, Tommy Berube and Mark Corton and whoever the hell they'd bring down with them. Would drive down from Niagara Falls and play in Erie, Pennsylvania on Tuesday nights. And we couldn't get 18 guys at the end of it to play. And it's unbelievable from where it was to what it is now. And in fact, fast pitch started to really lose its grip on the city when modified pitch came in. And keep in mind now that I know you had Greg Leather on and he was really big into modified, but there's 2 different kinds of modified pitch. There's the 9-man, which is basically slingshot. And then there's 10-man, which is you're not allowed to do anything to generate spin or speed on the ball. You have to keep your elbow locked, your wrist locked. You're not allowed to turn your shoulders. You're not allowed to turn your hips. You can try to throw it as fast as you can, but the restrictions that are put on you are such that they don't want you to be able to throw the ball. They don't want rise balls and drop balls, and there's no velocity. And so 10-man, you have the extra outfielder. 9-man is basically slingshot, where you throw it as hard as you can. But 10-man is what took over in Erie, Pennsylvania for the longest time. And then that's even dropped out. And then it became the big ball, slow pitch, like you might see in Chicago, where they play with gloves, where they throw it 18 feet high and you're not allowed to wear gloves. And that took over for a while. Yeah.
That's fucking horseshit.
It's unbelievable. I mean, you don't wear gloves when you play this. And there was like a 12-team league. And it's really big in Chicago still, and maybe in different parts of the country. But Erie had a really big league going. And it was crazy, but all that while all these other things were building up, men's fast pitch was just dropping. And
shame.
Yeah. And that's, when we had the Ed McCormick tournament there for a while, which was, when it was going, it was one of the best tournaments in the country. That was, even the fans that used to all love the game of fast pitch, and all the people that used to play and come out and watch, and none of them were coming out and watching the tournament. So it just got to be a point of, why am I doing this? It's just, there's only so long you can piss in the ocean. It's just pushing shit uphill.
Exactly. Yeah. So how old were you when you got your start in the game?
I started in like a church league when I was 11. And then I played in our men's city rec league when I was 12, I believe. And when I do pitching lessons and clinics, I always make sure that I reference that to people as I say, I was 12 years old pitching against grown men. And I got my ass kicked. I got my ass kicked all through my career. But especially when I was a 12-year-old pitching against grown men, I mean, it was chuck and duck, throw it and hope that I didn't get killed. And that my father had to sign waivers to let me play and all kinds of stuff in case I got hurt. And but this was before the woke culture of girls suing to play in boys sports and boys suing to play in girls sports. So if I wanted to play, I had to play against grown men. And I always tell the kids that I work with, imagine you're a 12-year-old and you got to pitch against UCLA or one of the schools. That's what I did, and it was horrible.
Holy shit! Like, so did you start pitching right away? Like, is that like when you started playing? Did you pretty much self-teach yourself?
Well, I'll tell you what, guys. I've never played a single game of baseball in my life.
Okay, I was going to ask you that. I was going to ask you that.
Yeah. The high school baseball coach in my school was also played in our men's fast pitch league. Almost everybody played in the men's fast pitch league at one point in Erie because it was so popular. And he used to try to get me to come out and just DH because I was a fairly decent hitter. I know Greg Letter's probably laughing at this, but I would DH when I, in New Zealand and stuff when I wasn't pitching. I would bat and I didn't do bad, but yes, in terms of pitching, I was all self-taught, but so I never played baseball, but they would always try to get me to come out and play. And I was always afraid it would ruin my softball swing. And I will never get to make it to the top if I try baseball. And now I see what Max Scherzer just signed for yesterday, and I'm kicking myself.
I know, that's insane.
Yeah. But, so I was self-taught. My brother was a pitcher too. And he and I would pitch just nonstop in the yard until, we get tired and we take a break and we go back in, we'd pitch again. And we'd ask, we'd see the best pitchers in the city, which were, our A-league level, basically nothing like the open level guys. And I didn't know that there was a level above the above the A-league guys in Erie. And I was thinking these guys are the best in the country, watching them play. And I'd see one guy and say, "How did you hold your rise ball?" And then I'd say, "How did you hold your rise ball?" And,
right.
And I just asked everybody and kind of piecemealed it together. And then when I was 15 years old, a friend of mine took me to the historic tournament. You guys have probably heard about Oakland, Pennsylvania, over our Labor Day weekend. And that used to be a 32-team tournament played over a weekend. And I got to see my first major level pitcher ever when I was 15. And I was in disbelief. I mean, not only that everything I thought about softball up to that point was wrong, but that somebody could throw the ball as hard as he did. And, so, I mean, that just set me on a whole new course of wanting to try to be that good and try to play at that level.
Can you remember who was in pitching that tournament back then?
I can give you, as you know, Randy, and I tell you what, and this reminds me,
I know.
I think I should get an executive producer credit for your show from all the names,
exactly.
phone numbers I'm sending you all the time.
That is true.
Lauren Algar, Paul Algar's brother, Lauren.
Okay, yeah.
Was the first guy that I ever saw, and I can give you names and dates of everything that I ever saw in every game and blah blah. And he was the first one I ever saw it, and I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And there was other mid-major teams at that tournament. Like Ashland was a good team, but they couldn't beat the Pencors and the Guanella brothers and stuff like that. They just didn't have the horses like those teams did. But they had Lauren Elgar, and he kept them in every game when they would play these top teams. Yeah. And I know you, when you spoke to Nick about that the other day, he told you that, and it was very true. I mean, they had the pitching usually, but they just didn't have the hitting, and they didn't play the schedule to get them ready for the opposition that they'd be playing. Right. But so I saw like Stevie Price when he was a kid, and I got to see there was another American pitcher, Tony Hunoff, who used to play for the Sunners and with Ashland and different teams. And so these guys just totally opened my mind that there's a whole nother level of softball. And then I did everything I could to learn all about it. I wrote letters to every team that I ever could find an address for, and asked them for T-shirts and programs from their team, and some wrote back to me and sent me stuff, and others probably just threw the letter away and said, "Who's this nut kid?" And so I that's how I got started, and that's how I kept rolling with it. That's crazy. That's awesome too. So after you were at that tournament, and you had a whole new outlook on it, is that when you were like, okay, here's what I have to do to get better, and you worked at it? Well, yeah, but that also came with a lot of inquiries as to how do I get that good? How do I do this? What do I do? And I was fortunate that I had the size. I mean, I'm 6'3" now. I was a pretty skinny kid when I was younger. I couldn't put on weight. I didn't put on weight. And so that kind of worked against me to a degree. But I mean, like I said, I was asking people, how do you do this? How do you do that? And that's really what happened is it just, like I said, I started writing letters and asking people as many questions as I could. And I'd see somebody with a good rise ball and say, how did you hold that? And then I'd see somebody with a better one say, how did you hold yours? And then I started to see there was a lot of common denominators, and what the best pitchers that I could see were all saying. So that's kind of what I tried to, mimic then as I was becoming a pitcher. Right. Right. So what age were you when you started, getting right into it and traveling around? So the senior year of high school, 1990, the final quarter of my senior year, I left home to go move to Salt Lake City to live with Ken Hackmeister. Oh, wow. And I lived with Kenny Hackmeister. My actual high school diploma is from a school in Utah, because I graduated from my diploma came from the school in Utah. And I had to be there in March in order to make eligibility requirements for ASA at the time. And so I was playing for his 18 and under team, Ken Hackmeister's 18 and under team. I went out there and I got to pitch against them at one of the 18 and under nationals at one point. And then I got to pitch for them. In fact, I got to Salt Lake in 1990, the same year Peter Meredith did. Wow, and so we got there at the same time. And obviously we were on two different teams and playing in two different leagues and stuff. But it was still kind of cool because I got to know him a lot better at that point. And then, a couple years later, we were teammates, which was kind of cool. Yeah, that's really cool. Friggin' right. That'd be awesome. So when did you go down to New Zealand? Was it at your younger age? Yeah. Early? So the first time I went to New Zealand was right after that season, that 1990 season. At 18 years old, I went down for the first time. How'd that all happen? Hackmeister set it up. I mean, New Zealand used to come to the Salt Lake City Pioneer Days tournament all the time. So he had a really good relationship with their executive director at the time. His name was John Voyle. Mm-hmm. And he said, hey, he sent players down before, and he would help players over here find teams. And he was a commissioner within the ISC for a long time. And that was one of the things he did, was he worked closely with New Zealand, and he would help place players and pitchers at different teams. And that eventually became my job. But prior to that, I said to him, I'll come out and pitch for you in Salt Lake, but I really want to go to New Zealand. And he said, well, I could make that happen. And sure enough, he did. That winter, it was my first year down there.
Wow, that's crazy. So imagine there's got to be some good stories from playing with the Kiwis.
Especially this time of year when I think back to where I would be right now.
Yeah.
If I was back in my New Zealand days, because the season's just kind of getting rolling right now.
Yeah.
And my first year there, I was an 18-year-old kid with an American accent, and I lived at a hotel that had 3 bars and a nightclub. And I'm telling you, I could tell you stories, but you'd probably lose your podcast license for some of the things.
So what was obviously the Kiwis are known for their how good they are in the softball world. What was the competition like down there in the league play that you were in?
Well, the first year I went was also the first time ever that I pitched with 2 feet on the rubber.
Oh,
and
right.
so, I grew up as a kid stepping back and basically having no rules. The only rule is don't throw it overhand.
Yeah.
And then when I got down there, I had, not only are you pitching on those mats that they use instead of the ground, but I had to go with 2 feet on the rubber. So I almost had to relearn how to pitch.
It's quite an adjustment, isn't it?
It's really, I mean, for anybody that doesn't understand, I mean, imagine you're right-handed and then all of a sudden you got to do everything left-handed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that backwards that you have to relearn how to, get weight transfer and everything. And so it took a good several months before I felt like I was pitching at the best I could at that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's like we had to do it here. I think it was like 4.
We flip-flop back. We
flip-flop like 4. I think we had to go like 4 or 5 years with 2 feet, and then we went back. And I mean, those 4 or 5 years with 2 feet in the rubber, it's just like, oh my God, come on, like losing, especially someone like me who I need that extra little oomph.
The thing I remember about that too was guys that pitched away at ISCs when they came to pitch at Canadian Nationals couldn't pitch with 2 feet on the rubber because they were so used to pitching with 1 foot on the rubber.
Yeah.
So it was a big challenge for them. Yeah. Like Musey. When Musey came back, it was hard time.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something interesting. When I know we'll probably get into it at some point, but when I was a commissioner within the ISC, one of my jobs was not only placing players with teams in both countries back and forth, but I was also recruiting teams that would come to the ISC, and I was bringing teams from Europe and Australia and different Guatemala, and different teams would come, and that was kind of my job, is to kind of arrange all that. Well, I had to explain to the Czech Republic, who was coming over to train themselves, prepare for the ISF or now the WBFC. They were trying to get better for the next World Championship, that their pitchers aren't allowed to go with 2 feet on the rubber, but Dewey Dyke is legal or Muselar's legal, hopping, skipping, and jumping all the way out in front of the circle. Your pitchers aren't allowed to go 2 feet on the rubber because that's against the rules of the ISC to pitch with 2 feet on the rubber.
Wow.
Because in international, you go heel and toe, right? You put your heel in front, your toe behind. That's illegal under ISC rules. And I would go round and round with Les Novak, who was the umpire in chief, basically. And we would get into, arguments and meetings about it. And I'm saying, you're trying to tell me that this is illegal, but somebody who is basically just replanting wherever the hell they want to,
doing a cartwheel
outside anything is that's fine. And I could never see their point and they could never see my point. So it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy. So the 8 seasons that you were in New Zealand, like obviously that would have been your prime where you'd be playing there in the summer, coming back here, playing in the summer. At that time, was it?
Yeah, pretty much. The last year I was in New Zealand was the 99-2000 season.
Okay.
And so that was the last time I was there. And, I had, and going back and forth as much, I had, relationships with girls and stuff. And so I had a lot more than just softball that was taking me back there. But obviously softball was probably the priority when I was there, but I also had other things that were taking me back and forth so much. Otherwise I wouldn't have gone as much as I did. And then I went to Australia for the 1 season too. Oh,
how was that?
Different. I mean, the same in that they pitched on the mats, and it was way before the days of an Adam Folkert and a Andrew Kirkpatrick. So Australia wasn't what Australia softball is now when I was there in the mid 90s. I mean, they were just getting better. They had some great players coming in with Shane King and Terry Downs and others, but they didn't have the Adam Folkards yet.
Right.
And so they had a lot of former New Zealanders that, because you can travel between New Zealand and Australia, when non-pandemic time of year, those guys can move and live in either place. So there's a lot of Kiwis that live and play ball in Australia.
Right. Yep.
And so, I'll tell you an interesting thing. My first year in New Zealand, I got to play with a 14-year-old Travis Wilson.
Oh, wow.
We were on the same club team. Yeah.
Wow.
You could just see that he might have even been 13 at that time. I don't know how much older I am than him, but he was really young and you could just tell that he was a cut above everybody else.
I was going to say, could you see the potential in him?
Oh man, absolutely. I mean, he was playing, with the men's teams, and then he was still eligible for the 18U, 15U, 13. I mean, he could make all the grades, the age levels. So.
Yeah. Kind of like Cole Evans today, right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, I played with his dad. His dad was our shortstop for 3 years.
Oh, that's crazy. You are old, Bill.
I know. Tell me about it. That's what I said to somebody today who sent me a Hall of Fame thing. I said, all that means is you're old, man.
Yeah.
These people are thinking of you in the past tense now. So.
Yeah.
So let's jump back to 92, your first ISCs. What do you remember about that? And was that an eye opener?
Well, it was an eye opener. Because back then it was, qualifying was harder.
Right.
And yet, you had to actually qualify, and there was probably some at-large teams that got to go, but you legitimately had to win your league or win a qualifying tournament. And I was 20 years old and pitching in a league against Ty Stofflet. And I got to pitch against him a number of times, and then I got to play with him later in that year. But we won our first game, and then the second game, I remember we played Seattle, and we lost on an error. And that next morning, Stofflet took me to breakfast to talk about it. How freaking cool is that? That Ty Stofflet probably, for a Pennsylvania American kid, that he's like God, And he took me to breakfast to talk about it.
Wow.
And then that was pretty awesome. And then we won 2 more games, and we lost 1-0 to Victoria. Picnic beat us 1-0 on a pass ball, believe it or not.
Old peaches. So were you with so was that Larry Miller or was that Page back then?
No, my first ISC, I was with a team from Baltimore.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, so we were the Maryland Hurricanes. And I didn't get to play in Salt Lake again after that 90 season until 95 when I went with Toyota.
And you guys made
Toyota
runner-up that year?
Yeah. Oh, my God. I don't know if anybody's ever told you these stories of that year, but I mean, first of all, Zach was unhittable. We could still be playing right now, and we weren't going to score off him. I mean, he was just unbelievable. He was playing chess, and we were playing checkers.
Yeah.
And but in the if game, our DP hit a ball, and it bounced off the top of the fence and bounced back in, and he only got a double off it. If that ball goes over, we win. No, 1-0. But we ended up losing the if game in 11 innings.
Oh, wow.
And so the if game of that went 11 innings. But like I said, he was unhittable, so we could have still been playing, and we weren't going to score.
That's crazy. Yeah, he was unhittable that ISC's like that. Well, I shouldn't say just that ISC's.
No, I mean,
like, man, he was so good back then. That year, you got to pitch in the finals, didn't you?
Yeah, I went in. I mean, listen, I knew what my role was.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never not known what my role is in this sport, and so I don't ever want to put myself in the same sentence as Zach or Stofflet or anybody like that. But I went into the final. The first final, because we were already down 4-0 or something. Right. And we realized we're not going to score. And so they took Pete out and basically threw me in and finished up the game. And then we went on to the if game. And I remember as clear as I'm sitting here, I remember Pete saying to the team, he said, he was spraying his fingers with Stickum. And he said, you guys give me 1 run and we'll win.
Wow.
And he said, and I've never seen him throw as hard as he did that if game. I mean, he just turned it up a notch, and it was just zeros. Both teams 0, 0, 0, zeros. Went to the 11th inning, and in the bottom of the 7th of the if game, our center fielder dropped a bunt. They threw the ball down the first baseline with nobody out. He made it to third. Zach walked the bases loaded and struck out the side. You couldn't hit him. I mean, we had the top of the order. We had the meat of our order up with bases loaded and nobody out, and he just struck out the side like he was playing wiffle ball. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, like looking back now, but I mean, I guess even then, what was it like watching Zach like in that moment? Like that had to be surreal.
It was. I mean, at the time, it was. Well,
you're probably pissed.
It's frustrating as hell. But my first ISC 92 was Zach was with the Vancouver Magicians, and I had pitched against him earlier that year, and I had met him a couple of times before that at the Elkland tournament and a couple other things that he would be added, and so I got to see his progression from like 1987 up through that 92 season when he was with Vancouver and took that team, which, I mean, he pitched them into the top four. I mean, of back when the ISC was still more than just three teams, Yeah. And he was, so I watched him progress from 87 all the way up to 92. And then going into 93 when he beat Sioux City twice was just unreal. And then of course he beats us again in 95, and it's so yeah, I mean, it was pretty awesome watching him just get better and better. Yeah. And everybody else just looking like, they're just not getting better. It was just incredible. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, that's not a diss to anybody else. It's a compliment to him, because he was just so much better than everybody else. And it was, it's probably like before my time, it was like watching Jimmy Moore, I guess, back in the 80s, because they say he was just it would frustrate you because you couldn't hit him. Yeah. I mean, you couldn't hit him. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. Geez, man, that's awesome. I like just thinking back to those times when softball was like so huge, and it just,
I miss those.
Yeah.
Days.
Yeah.
Frig.
It's unbelievable where the game is now versus where it used to be. And I've said before that one of the worst things about it is that people that see all the stuff on TV now, the NCAA on TV and different stuff, that all started with men's fast pitch. If there wasn't men's fast pitch, there wouldn't have been an ASA. If there wasn't an ASA, there wouldn't have been the progression of the sport for the females that there is today. And the ASA was built on the back of men's fast pitch. Right. I mean, that's what the game was back in the day. So, the fact that most people's understanding of men's fast pitch softball today is the king in his court. That's what people think men's fast pitch was. And they don't, they would have no idea who an Adam Folkert is, or even who a Ty Stofflet is for the most part.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It's kind of sad, really, but, as I want to talk to, we were talking back and forth a little bit today about that you got to play with both Salt Lake City teams, and kind of like the rivalry there. Touch on that a little bit, because you had a pretty good story there.
Well, yeah. So I was with Toyota from 95 to 96. And then in the off season of 95 and 96, I had knee surgery. I had a pretty bad problem with my knee, and it required actual surgery, not like orthoscopic. You're done in a week. And so I couldn't go back to New Zealand and play that winter. So I stayed at home, and that next season, in 96, that summer, still with Toyota, partway in June, we were playing in the Vancouver Challenge up in Vancouver, obviously, but it was like, it had All-Car, it had the Farm, it had Victoria. There was like the top 8 teams were there. And in one of the games, I landed funny and I hurt my knee again. And one of the trainers said, well, there's a chance you might have undone what the surgery did. You might have come back too soon. And so, oh shit. So I really didn't get to pitch a lot that year. And the next year, that winter, I did go back to New Zealand, and I was training it, rehabbing it, doing everything. And Toyota decided to move on, and they went another direction. And so I still like playing in Salt Lake. And so Paige Brake called and said, hey, well, we heard Toyota's making a change. Would you, come over to us? And I said, yeah, absolutely, because I wanted to stay in Salt Lake. And so I got to play with Paige Brake, and Randy, you played in Salt Lake, right?
Yeah.
What year were you there?
I was there 08 and 09. So I was.
Did you get to meet Carl Hansen?
I did not. Actually, funny thing is, I played for Salt Lake, and I never actually got to go to Salt Lake City.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
so
I got
just kind of commuted down on weekends to different places.
Everything was on the West Coast. I like Best of the West in Santa Barbara, Dimerini Cup in Portland, stuff like that. So, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, Carl Hansen was the owner and sponsor of Page Break, and he had a team for, almost as long as Larry Miller did, and the two teams were rivals for a long time, and there was always two berths out of Utah to the ISC. There was the Travel League winner and then the Utah State winner. So both teams were going to get to go. It was just a question of who went under what slot, basically.
Right.
And so there was never really a question of one team beating the other out and the other team not getting to go to the ISC. But it was pretty different getting to flip over to that from the Toyota side over to the Page side, because Page was always kind of considered the younger brother to
right.
Larry Miller.
Right.
But when I pitched for them, Toyota basically had the same players from when I was there. And I played with them for 2 years. I kind of knew them, and whenever I'd pitch against them, we usually beat them. And now that there's two different Toyota teams. Basically, there's their weak team. And by week, I mean during the week, not weak as in not strong. Yeah. And then the weekend they would bring in all the out of staters, and so beating them during the week on a Tuesday night didn't really give you the great stuff pumping through your veins like you did something huge.
Right.
But we finally got to play against each other in 1999 in the finals of the Pioneer Days tournament, which at the time was one of the best tournaments in the country, and we beat them 3-1 in the final, and it was pretty amazing. I mean, the Carl Hansen, kind of we always said that we did that for Carl, and because he just was always like runner up to Larry Miller in Salt Lake, and then the Larry Miller himself was there at the game. He was in the dugout because they had never won. No Salt Lake team had ever won their own tournament, and so finally, that game somebody was gonna win the championship. Yeah. And it happened to be us. And so it was kind of neat.
Wow. Yeah. That's awesome. Actually, speaking of Salt Lake, I saw yesterday when they announced your Hall of Fame there on Facebook, Mark Benjamin gave you a comment on there. Do you know Benji?
Very well from all my years there. And then we played together in New Zealand as well for a year or two.
Okay. So I got to play with Benji, and so I pretty much, when I played with Salt Lake, I hung out with Benji and Tommy Gray. So,
Benji is one of the funniest people.
Oh my God. Unreal.
One of the craziest, funniest people that I've ever met. And to be in New Zealand with him was even better, because he just did not care at all there about what he said to who and what. And so that he was there for a good time, not a long time. Yeah.
And he's in Oklahoma.
He's somewhere in Oklahoma now. Yeah. He's moved around quite a bit with different college jobs. Yep. And a lot of male fast pitch guys are getting into the college game, and it's really revolutionizing the sport here.
Yeah, for sure. But I saw that and I kind of had a chuckle, and I was like, I gotta ask Bill about Benji, because that guy's a beauty.
Yeah, that's the best word for it. Yeah, he was something.
Yeah. I want to touch on the U.S. national team here.
Sure.
You were on the team twice, 93, mm-hmm. First time 93. What was that like, being named the team in 93?
Well, it was a little frustrating because we had just back then they were just transitioning into picking the team individually versus sending the national champ from the year before.
All right.
And so in 1993, throughout the 80s and into the 90s, they had what's called the U.S. Olympic Festival. And the Olympic Festival, what they would do is they would take the top 4 teams from the nationals the year before, and that's who would get to go play in the United States Olympic Festival. And the Olympic Festival is basically every sport that's in the Olympics, and even some that aren't in the Olympics, would go to a city and they would play an Olympic style event. Okay. And men's fast pitch was in there, women's fast pitch was in there, and they would take. I said they took the top 4 teams, and so in 1992, Zach pitched with Seattle in the ASA, and they made it to the top 4. And then the 1993 season, I went with Seattle for the season, and the Olympic Festival was on our schedule, so I got to go to the Olympic Festival. And it was us, Miller Toyota, Guanella Brothers, who had won the national championship, and Ashland, Ohio, were the 4 teams that were there. And so you play in this thing, and I think we won the bronze medal that year. And they were picking the team that was going to go to the Pan Am tournament in Mexico in like early October.
Right.
And I kept saying to the coach, I said, well, he kept kind of hinting at me that I was probably going to be on the team. And I said, well, I need to know. And he wouldn't tell me. And I said, well, I need to know because I'm going back to New Zealand and I need to go book tickets. I got to tell them when I'm going to be able to come. And, so he wouldn't tell me. And then in between the seasons, when I was like waiting to go to New Zealand, I got the letter from USA Softball. Congratulations, you have been selected to go to Monterrey, Mexico. And so, we as a U.S. team, we went. We were loaded. We had Billy Boyer and Timmy Wall, and we were stacked. And Canada basically took a really depleted Toronto Gators team that won the ISC and their Canadian championships, but they didn't have all of the big names. But they had Darren Zach, and he beat us again in the final.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He beat us 2-1 in the final of the Pan Am tournament there. And I mean, they still had a really good team. I mean, they had, Craig Crawford was catching, and they had, Stevie Price was there and Randy Peck. I mean, they had a good team, but it wasn't the Toronto Gators that won the ISC.
Right.
And, but again, Zach was just, he was inhuman, and he won. And then, so that was my first trip there. That was my first time, was 1993. And they had and once again, I was 21 years old at the time, and I knew what my role was. My role was to pitch against Jamaica and whoever else, and basically save Meredith for when we played Canada.
Right.
And we had myself and Meredith and Scotty Planger. And I ended up pitching like the majority of our games, and I went like 6-0, and I won this most valuable pitcher trophy from the Pan Am tournament. I don't know if they've ever given one since or ever gave one before, but I got this trophy, and they,
Nice.
they were saying blah 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 in Spanish, and I had no idea what they were saying, and they were calling my name, and I was like, well, I don't understand. We were all dejected. We got the silver medal. We were angry at Zach, and and then they called my name, and I got this trophy, and I didn't know what it was for, and then they kind of explained it to me, and it was kind of a neat honor.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I imagine. Jesus, especially going 6-0 in a tournament like that. I mean, you say you were facing Jamaica and teams like that, but still, I mean. Yeah,
I pitched against teams like that, and then I also pitched against Argentina. I mean, now Argentina wasn't what they are now,
right?
They started sending their players over here in the mid 90s, and then they started with 2, and then the next year there was 6, and then in fact they all went to Salt Lake as well.
Oh,
and
okay.
and that's how that old floodgate started.
Right. So
it started with Julio Gamarci and Roberto Baylor, who were the first 2 that came over, and we met them. Pete and I met them at that Pan Am tournament in Mexico, and they wanted to come to the U.S. to get better and learn, and so Pete arranged for them to come to Salt Lake.
Wow. So they were they were pretty much the start of what they've grown in today then.
Yes. Everything that you see with Argentina softball right now, it traces back to those 2. And,
wow.
and they came, and in fact, they lived with me for a couple of weeks before I moved out to a different place. And, and then the next year, like I said, there was 2 the first year, and then the next year there was about 6 of them.
Wow.
And including more pitchers and a couple hitters, and then it's just snowballed ever since with them, and look at where they are.
Oh, and
it's just remarkable.
You love to see it. I mean, for so many years, it's Canada, New Zealand, Australia. And you know what I mean? And, you're starting to see it become more of an even playing field. I mean, Japan, Argentina. I mean, I can see the U.S. is going to start coming along here, like in a few years when Cody Gibbons and the other young ones start coming along. I mean, and it's just great for the game.
Yeah, I memean that's the hope, right? I mean, is I haven't got to see this Cody Gibbons pitch yet, but I mean everything I've heard about him is talent wise, he's remarkable.
Yeah,
and and there's only an upside with him being 16, 17 years old. I really hope that he listens to whoever is going to be giving him advice, because I know as a 16, 17 year old pitcher, I thought I knew more than I did.
Right.
And I really wished I would have listened to more people when I was younger. And then, when I was older and, the second time I pitched with the U.S. team was 2000 when we went to South Africa. I was like a tail to Michael White. Everywhere he went, I was just right there with him. And just the things that he would just mutter under his breath were, some of the smartest softball pitching things that you'd ever know.
I was going to ask you about Michael White. Like that,
yeah.
Like the guy is, I mean, we all know what he's done. A lot of people today know what he's done in the NCAA, but I mean, we know what he's done back in the day in our game. So I can only imagine what it was like, being alongside him.
Yeah. And he and I got to be pretty good buddies. He came to New Zealand on a visit to see his family, and he stayed with me for almost a week. And we went and saw the America's Cup Village, and we went golfing every day. And I took him around different places. So I got to be pretty good buddies with Mike. And now his college success, one of my top pitchers just signed to go play for him down in Texas. So he's nice. He owes me one now. So
wow. Who was that?
Yeah. I mean, her name's Tegan Cavan.
Okay. Right on. There's
an article about her. If you go on Extra Innings Softball, there's an article about her that she's looking forward to going to Austin. And
definitely
she's a really good kid. So yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, he's just one of the smartest people softball wise that, pitching and then hitting. And I remember speaking at the NFCA National Convention, which is basically the National College Coaches Association. Now it's National Softball College Association coaches. Basically every college coach in the country goes to the convention.
Right.
And I got to be one of the featured speakers one year, and it was in Las Vegas. And I was actually doing a pitching debate with two women. We would debate on different topics, and it was pretty entertaining. But I remember looking out in the crowd, and we were the only event going on at that time. So the whole ballroom was filled with like 5,000 people. And I remember looking out, and like the third row center was Michael White. And I'm standing there thinking, this is like a disciple preaching to Jesus. What can I say to him?
Yeah,
that he. So, but it was pretty intense to get to know him, because he was a hero of mine as a kid. Obviously, as a student of the game, as a young kid, everybody knew who Michael White was, and to get to know him and get to play with him was just something that I'll never forget.
Yeah. What was his game prep like?
That's a really good question, because, I didn't room with him on the roams. I stuck around with him as often as I could, and I'd ride in the cars with him as often as I could. But he kept a lot of things to himself. And if I asked him questions, he would certainly tell me things and everything like that. But I never really asked him what his game prep was. He kept a lot of things close to the vest. And like I said, sometimes he would say things, and I don't even think he knew what he was saying, but he would just comment on where somebody is in the box, or, oh, you see that loop in the swing or something. And, his mind is just always going.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome, man.
So yeah, that was a lesson too, to just never take your eyes off the game.
Yeah.
Because there's always something that you can learn. And that was a big lesson too.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when you were ISC commissioner, you were obviously still playing at that time, were you not?
Yeah, I got asked to be a commissioner in 1997. So I would have been about 27, maybe 26 years old.
Okay.
I was one of the youngest ones ever, if not the youngest one ever. And
so how did that work?
The guy who was in the ISC executive director before Hackmeister was a guy named Milt Stark.
Okay. Yeah.
And at this point, I had already gone back to New Zealand probably 4 or 5 times. And so they were getting a really cozy relationship with New Zealand, and we wanted to kind of have cooperative rules. Like if in New Zealand, if you change teams, it's not exactly like just changing teams from Miller Toyota to Page Brake. You actually have to get a transfer and change teams, and the club has to sign off on you being allowed to go play for somebody else. And because if you owe the club money, if you took their uniform and didn't give it back, they can hold up your ability to go play for somebody else.
Oh, wow.
And so we were trying to get cooperative rules like that in place with New Zealand and with the ISC, because we didn't want somebody to be able to just, run rampant somewhere and then come over here and be able to be, scot-free, do whatever you want. So we wanted to have, a good cooperation with them. And at that point, I was also kind of unofficially setting players up over here. A pitcher wants to come over, and I would get a hold of somebody and say, okay, here's a pitcher, and I did that for I don't know how many people, and I also helped people go the other way too, down to New Zealand. So it kind of became a good marriage, that since I was already doing it, that they wanted me to be a part of the ISC, and they wanted some younger blood in there, and I filled that role too.
Right. Well,
so and I started doing that, and like I said, 1997 was my first one.
And you went till 2020 or 2013. Wow, that's it's quite a run, though.
yeah, and a good majority of that was on the executive committee, and that's I don't want to say it's a full-time job, but I mean there's something to do. I'm telling you what, there's email discussions going on right now about different things, whether it's a rule change or this or that or something.
Right.
There's always something going on that they're talking about and working on. So there's a lot more goes on behind the scenes than a lot of people realize.
That's awesome. That's kind of stuff I love hearing about, the behind the scenes stuff and little intricacies of the game.
And I really wanted to be a part of that. I mean, I was so in, you guys got to understand, I was so into the game. This was all that I did and all I wanted to do. It never, ever occurred to me that I would get old and I wouldn't be able to go back and forth to New Zealand forever and be able to play forever. And so I was involved in the game from both on the field and off the field. And that was like a dream.
Yeah, no, actually, a question I want to ask about how is when the selection process for picking where it's going to be? Is there like any main thing that you look at, or?
Well, right now, I mean, it used to be there was a bidding process, and we would vote on it. The commissioners would vote on. Now, pretty much anytime Kimberly, Wisconsin bid on it, they got it. I mean, because everybody loves Kimberly, but not they. They didn't want to bid on it every year because it would just burn out their volunteers, and they wanted to kind of keep it special. So they didn't want it every single year.
Yeah.
And then, there would be like almost like a mini situation like the Olympics, where when a host city, they would have parties and they would invite the commissioners in and give you beer and food, and they would try to sway your vote when the time came to vote on their city. And so that when there was multiple places that were bidding for the ISC, we would actually have votes on it. Nowadays, it goes to anybody who will host it.
Right.
I mean, everything has changed. I mean, it used to be there was multiple cities on each year looking to try to host, and now it's just whoever's going to be
Quad City. Now it's Quad City.
Yeah, Quad City every other year, because I think they have a girls tournament on the off year at the same time.
Yeah.
So it goes back to Quad City, and I know Quad City has its ups and downs, but I mean, there's just very few places left that want to host it. I mean, some of the best places, like Sioux City and Kimberly, and these places, they just don't have the place anymore to do it. They don't have the people to do it anymore, and it's just another reason the game's going the way it is.
Yeah, I think Kitchener would have put on a show if it wasn't for the pandemic that year, like a couple years ago. I think
Kitchener's a great host. They always did things the right way. The only downside of Kitchener is the West Coast teams have to travel as far.
Right.
And then, but you could say that when the ISC was in Victoria, then the East Coast teams had to travel really far. So, there's pros and cons to every place that you have. But now it's sounding like Circle Tap is wanting to be in the mix of hosting it, on like a cycle. It's kind of sounds like, and everybody I talked to loved it up there, and
that'd be all right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you have a place like that not only wants to host it, but also has a great facility and a great atmosphere. And that's going to be a no-brainer to keep them in the cycle.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We got to touch on the host of pitching. Be silly not to.
Okay.
So how did that all start?
Well, another American pitcher by the name of Doug Gillis, he was doing pitching lessons in Michigan for a long time. And he would talk to me, at different tournaments and stuff. And I would say, I've thought about giving lessons, and, you should. And, so I think it was like 2001, 2002, I finally decided this is it. I'm going to do it. And, so I started, kind of or putting myself out there to different local organizations and club teams, and I built up lessons. And now, like I was saying to you guys earlier, you know, most people don't have a clue who a Darren Zach is. You know, they don't really know. Some people know that men used to play fast pitch, but they don't even know that we had uniforms. You know, they just you know, and so the ability as a guy to just be able to demonstrate the pitching to a girl is unbelievable to them. They're not used to it. There's 1 million pitching coaches, and 500,000 of them are men who have never pitched before, and they're teaching girls how to pitch. So my niche of being able to demonstrate it is just mind-blowing to them. You know, they've never can, you know, fall off the table or stuff. They're used to being taught that you got to do this when you throw one pitch, and you throw your screwball this way, and you throw your fastball like this. And then somebody like me comes in and says, no, let me show you. This is what I do. This is why, and this is how. And, you know, you try to explain to them that, you know, I'm not Mike White. You guys don't even understand that there's a whole nother level or 3 above me. And, you know, but just the ability to demonstrate stuff is mind blowing to girls. Yeah. And so that's huge. Any guy, that's a pitcher. In fact, there's even a lot of guys who played fast pitch that weren't pitchers. They do pitching lessons because everybody on the sidelines turns their arm over and tries to pitch. Yeah. And so if you're able to do that and not look like, you know, the proverbial monkey doing what to a football, and you look like you're, you know, have any semblance of knowing what you're doing, people are going to listen to what you say. Right. True. And so that's how it all started. And it really took off faster than I could have ever. I was literally going all over the country doing lessons and clinics, and I would go up to British Columbia like 2-3 times a month sometimes and do lessons and stuff up there. I mean, you got guys like Robbie Ginter and Pieknik and stuff in Victoria, and these places were bringing me up there to do lessons, and I'm like, you guys don't realize the resources you have here. Right. Yeah. And they didn't realize some of them didn't realize the resources that they had there. But I mean, I didn't want to hype up Peaches too much. I didn't want to talk myself out of a job. Yeah, exactly. I would say he's all right. Yeah. He might teach us something, but he throws with the wrong arm. What's going on with him? Yeah. Oh, Frank, that's hilarious. So that's how that kind of got started. And then I took in 2018, I went through a divorce, and I decided to just kind of change everything. And I took a college job for the first time. And I had worked with different colleges before, but as a quote unquote consultant. And that word consultant changed the rules about what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do, where you're allowed to do it with the teams. But this time I actually went on staff at Providence, which is a mid-major Division I, the Big East Conference. Yep. And so I went to work there for the year. And when you sign on and you're on a college staff, you're not allowed to do lessons like you do here, like I do in clinics and things. Okay. There's ways that you can do it, but it violates rules, and it's a lot of bullshit that I didn't want to go through, so I didn't even bother. Right. And so that kind of shut that down for a while. And then after Providence, I moved out here to Omaha, and I was here with a different school, and I was here for 3 months, and I quit. But I liked Omaha, so I decided to stay, and now I got my lessons back up and running again. Nice. That's awesome. So you got to work a little bit with the Olympic team, did you not? Yeah, earlier this year, I went to Dallas with one of their training camps for 2 weeks, and I would sit in the bullpen, and somebody had something to ask or whatever, I would offer my opinion. But I basically just threw batting practice and was around the team trying to make jokes and whatever. And so it was kind of neat. The U.S. former Olympic coach Ken Erickson, he used to play. He played with Miller Toyota. Okay. He was a catcher, and he played with Miller Toyota in '95, the year we took second, and he played with the Clearwater Bombers and played with the Smokers. And so he's got a huge background in men's fast pitch. And, they always, the U.S. team always wants male pitchers to go through a batting practice because they want somebody that can make the ball go up and down, throw the ball 70 miles an hour without much effort. and can simulate what they're going to see when they play Japan or Australia.
Yeah.
So the U.S. team will almost always have male pitchers as they throw batting practice.
Yeah.
Wow. It must have been a pretty cool experience, though. I mean, being around that environment.
Yeah, it was. And now the new coach, Heather Tarr, I'm pretty close with her, and she's already asked me to go to the next training camp, which is January 1st through 5th down in Florida. But I'm not able to. I'll be in Europe for the holidays unless this new COVID thing shuts that down. I don't know what's going to happen with this new strain, but
Right.
as we record this, I don't know what's going to happen with it all. That everything's, I know Israel's already shut down passengers from out of the country, and so who knows what's going to happen in a couple of weeks when Christmas rolls around. But I'm supposed to be in Europe for Christmas. My son lives over there, and I go over there every year, so I wasn't able to do this camp. But hopefully, maybe, who knows? Maybe I'd be able to do it a little more full time.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about your son, Bill. He's quite a swimmer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's doing really well with his swimming. One of the national teams, and he has his club team, and he's got I don't even know how many national records over there for things.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, that's the Danish national records. That's kind of like being the tallest midget. I don't know what that means in the scale of the world, but I mean, I guess with swimming, you can kind of look up and see what other kids, what their times are, and you can judge it that way. It's not so subjective, like, I think Mike White was better than Zach, and you could argue about it this way. You can actually look at the numbers and see what the times are. Yeah. But he just set a couple of European records, and he's got the Nordic Championships coming up this next week, and so he's pretty good. He was, for a while there, he was really, really into softball, and he was pitching, and Fulkard was his hero. I mean, he just loved Fulkard. And so he would try to imitate Fulkard pitching, and he played in a couple, over in Denmark. And then he would come over here and play in the NAFA boys youth championships that they would have in Michigan. Yeah. And so he did that for a couple of years, and now he just wants to concentrate on swimming. He doesn't want anything to do with softball.
Yep, that's fine.
I mean, seems like
everybody has their own thing.
Yeah, it seems like they're doing all right in it.
Yeah, that's
yeah. I wish I knew, more about it. Living over here, I don't get especially with COVID. I would go to Europe every other month to see him, if not more. And that gets expensive and it gets time consuming, but it is what it is. I mean, that's kind of the situation I was in. To be able to see him, I have to go over there, and so he would get to come over here again, non-COVID, normal situations. But it's been a couple of years since he's been to the U.S. now, and but yeah, I go over as often as I can, and so I don't really understand the swimming, what heat is versus what a backstroke is versus the breaststroke. I don't know what all this stuff is, but
I just know to hold my breath when I go underwater. That's all I know.
Yeah. And he's autistic as well. So he qualifies for the the parasport, they call it.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So he can swim in that, and he swims in both. I guess you'd call it the regular Olympics and the Paralympics.
Oh, that's great.
So he's basically a shoe-in for 2024 in Paris. That's what they say.
Awesome.
His times right now are that he should qualify for Paris swimming. So
that's amazing.
That's great. Well, let's get into player association. We on the podcast.
You know what? And I was really disappointed at the beginning of this. Normally, you used to do those quick pitches where would you rather be an elephant with a stuffy nose or a giraffe with a sore throat, and all these weird questions that you would throw out to people.
That's kind of my fault. Sorry.
I studied for that. I was like,
Hope he got me off of those because he was giving me the gears about the questions.
Oh, dude, those were the best.
Shit, we'll have to go back then, I guess.
Yes. I mean, just because I say so, you have to do it.
All right.
I wanted to hear some of the Nick McCurry answers. That's what I wanted.
Well, we figured with Nick, we might have been there for 4 hours, so we were trying to...
the Southern draw, and he would have thought about it. And,
he's a beauty.
That would have been great.
Yeah. So, we're going to get into player association with you. You know it. You've heard it.
I'm ready.
Throw out some names, and here we go. First one, Ty Stofflet.
Well, I mean, there's there's a couple of pitchers in the world that I looked up to as though they were beyond human. Zach was one of them. Jimmy Moore was one of them. Mike White was one of them. Stofflet was in that category too. And he's also up there as one of the all-time great gentlemen of the game too. Like there's nobody that says a bad word about Darren Zach. There's nobody that could say a bad word about Darren Zach. He's the coolest guy in the world. And Stofflet was that generation's Darren Zach, both on the field and off the field.
Well, that says a lot.
He had time for everybody. He wouldn't big time you if somebody else walked by. He kept the conversation with you and would answer all your questions. And he spent a lot more time with me than I deserve. That's for sure.
Wow, that's awesome. Guy you know well, Peter Meredith.
Well, you know what they say, you don't ever want to meet your heroes. No, Pete and I have kind of a unique relationship with Pete, both because I played with and against him. And he's one of the most brutally honest people in the world. And I can tell you in 96, when I was having real bad pains in my knee and I was really struggling pitching and I was just awful. I remember Dewey Dyke was in the dugout and he was spraying his hand down with Stickum. And I said, man, I don't know how you pitch with that stuff on your hand. And Pete looked at me and he said, maybe you should start. Totally blew my world up. He totally blew my world up. And no, I mean, he, you know, it was unbelievable getting to play with him because for my 16th birthday, my brother drove me to Elkhart, Indiana to watch him pitch for Transair. And I got to watch him pitch against Decatur that night. And it was like 7:30 at night. The lights were coming on. And if you would have told me he was throwing 150 miles an hour, I would have believed it. I mean, he threw that hard and it was just unbelievable. And to watch those two teams play against each other, and Pete team, he won 2-0. They hit a home run off David Scott and they won. But I couldn't believe that anybody was putting bat the ball to what he was throwing. But he's just a remarkable pitcher, and I know he's doing a great job at BYU coaching. And you know, I've had a really good relationship with Pete on and off the field. I've had Easter dinner at his house, and I know his wife really well, and I miss getting to see him more often than I do now. I mean, I used to get to see him a lot, and I miss that.
Right on. Next one, I actually didn't know you got to play with him as a 14-year-old, but Travis Wilson.
Probably the most sarcastic person that you'd ever meet in your life. I mean, sometimes I feel like Sheldon from the Big Bang Theory around Travis because he's so sarcastic and you don't know when he's being sarcastic sometimes. And yeah, you know, he to take what he's done in the world of sport and transfer it over into coaching with Florida State has been a remarkable thing to see. Mm-hmm. He didn't go to college himself and that's a big deal because here in the U.S. for a lot of the colleges, you have to have a degree to be able to be a coach. It doesn't matter if you're a pitching coach or a hitting coach, you have to have a college degree, and it could be in basket weaving. They don't care. But they want you to have a college degree, and Florida State doesn't require that. And Travis, for not having gone to college, is still one of the smartest people that I can tell you that I know. I mean, he is a really, really smart guy, and he was one of the most dangerous hitters that you'd ever see. Mm-hmm. I mean, he could look awful at one at bat, and then the next at bat, he'd hit one 400 feet. Man. So, you know, he was a great teammate to be around because he just always kept things light. And I mean, I sound like I'm talking about him like he's dead. I don't mean to talk about him like he's dead, like he's gone. But, I'm speaking in the past from our playing days. He was just a great guy. And he came from a really great family, too.
Right on.
I got to know his family the first year I was in New Zealand. So, you know, he had a great upbringing. So great guy.
Yeah, he's definitely doing well for himself, Florida State.
You got to get him on.
I know. Well, he was just on with the boys down beyond the dugout with Chopper and Damien there. So yeah, I've sent Travis a couple messages and we've been talking back and forth.
Is it hard because they're college coaches? Is that kind of the problem?
Yeah. I've been having a little bit of a time with that. There's a couple I have to go through, people in the sports department stuff. And a lot of like they'll tell me that, they'd love to come on, but I got to go through them. And sometimes I'm like, I'm not getting responses back from the athletic department. You know what I mean? So
now is the time. I mean, as we record this, it's December 1st. Now's the time to do it because they're basically on shutdown now until they come back from Christmas.
Exactly.
So there's very little that they're allowed to do except maybe go to the compliance department and say, hey, can I go on this podcast?
Yeah.
And so they're probably looking for things to do. So now would be a really good time. I have a list of names for you, man. People that I think you got to interview.
I know.
You guys do
I know
such
we'll be
a good
talking.
job.
Last one, and I know you have a little bit of history with him, is Nicky Shales.
Oh yeah. Well, as I think I told you, Randy, I mean, Adam and Nick, they lived with me for a couple of summers. I mean, I was on the Gremlins. They were with Jarvis and then Hill, and we were, arch enemies on the field. And then they lived with me for a couple of summers in Erie. And it was really, really cool because we kind of had this Chinese wall between us where we didn't really talk about things that happened on the field or games or anything too specific, but we would talk about softball. And I remember asking Adam about his no-hitter against New Zealand, and it was kind of neat hearing him regale those stories. But Shales he is such a good softball player that he would play in our league or our games in Erie, and he would bat right-handed, and then he'd bat left-handed, and then he'd go out and pitch, and he could strike everybody out pitching too. He's just an unbelievable talent. And I'm not saying he was a pitcher like Adam or like Sean Clear or anything, but he was a pretty good pitcher, man.
Yeah.
So it was an unbelievable changeup. And I know he comes from a long history of softball family. He's got softball in his family, and and he also has that baseball background too. But my God, that he is one of the most talented ball players I've ever seen because he can do anything he wants to on the field.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, Hopi,
at any level, at any level.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter if he's batting off Sean Cleary or if he's batting off, some bum in the Erie City Rec League. He can do whatever he wants against anybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, and such an awesome guy. I mean, I just think the world of him. And then, I got to know his wife, Jen, before they were even married. She was staying with us too. And so, I mean, I basically had the United States or the United Nations embassy there at one point. I had Denmark players, New Zealand players, and Australians and everything at my house. So, but yeah, Shales is one of my favorites, and I would do anything for him.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Billy, we got to thank you for coming on, man. This has been a pleasure.
I appreciate it.
And you're an encyclopedia for the game. So
we'll definitely be in touch.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm definitely.
Yeah, I told you I was screaming at the radio when I was listening to Nick because he couldn't remember years and tournaments, and I'm sitting there going, I remember that. I know that year. I know that was Decatur, 1988. I was in 87, and I was, so. But what you guys have started with this podcast is remarkable, and it's just picked up steam. And I mean, the guests that you've had on, and the interviews that you guys are doing, and the promotion that you're doing for the Chute is spectacular. And like I told you, you're scraping the bottom of the barrel after interviewing me. That must mean somebody else isn't available.
No,
but,
not at all.
You guys are doing awesome with what you're doing, and I'm really happy to help any way I can with getting you phone numbers or emails or anything like that. Because what you guys are doing, telling the stories of the game is just so important. And there's, people like me that just, as I'm listening to it, I remember that. I remember that guy. And it just takes me back a whole nother place as I listen to them. So,
that's awesome.
What you're doing for me, you're doing for everybody. And I thank you. So
awesome.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that.
Thanks, guys.
All right,
Appreciate
man.
it.
Take care.
Take care.
All right,
we'll be talking.
For sure.
All right, buddy.
All right.
Take care, guys. Thanks.
You too. Bye.
Awesome,
guy,
man.
Yeah, great guy.
Encyclopedia, like I said.
Yeah.
I mean,
we definitely have to use them.
For
sure.
100%. 100%.
I think it helped us a lot. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure. Oh, I don't care. I just got unplugged, but you can still hear me.
Okay.
Anyway, I mean, we probably definitely could have talked another 2 hours.
Except it's getting close to bedtime.
No, I know, but I mean, he
I know what you mean.
Man, he's been through quite a bit in the game, and he knows a lot of people, and that was a fun one for me.
Yeah, for sure. The guy is an encyclopedia. You're trying to plug your goddamn headphones in. Is this your first time doing a podcast? Or?
I went up. Where am I at?
You're fucked.
Talk for a second, would you?
I'm trying to talk, but I'm watching you make an ass of yourself.
All right, I think I got it. Here we go. We're back. We're back.
Anyway, It was a pleasure having him on for sure.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention to him that I did play against him in that fucking tournament.
Shit, we talked about it in the intro.
Anyway, no big deal. No big deal. He wouldn't remember me anyway, although I hit a home run off him. But anyway, it's fine.
And you're the guy that shit your pants.
And I shit my pants. Christmas season's coming up.
Yes.
So if you need a drive, please call and get one. No drinking or driving.
Yes.
Be safe out there.
If you're gonna drink, don't drive.
Yeah, call and get a cab. Call an Uber.
Get a cab. Get
or whatever.
Uber.
We can't get
a
Uber
lift
here, but
get a lift.
Fine. So we have another one coming up on Thursday. You said, Randy, or this
2
week,
days.
I guess, in 2 days.
It's going to be 2 days from now, and we tried before. He better not lose his goddamn phone again.
Shane, who knew?
Shane, who knew?
Yeah, looking forward to that one as well.
Yeah, that's like I said, if you watch Fast Pitch, the movie, you know who Shane is.
Yeah.
I mean, Nick McCurry talked about him. Says his beauty.
I've had a couple of friends actually mention to me that they didn't even know about the movie Fast Pitch until they listened to our podcast.
Shut up.
And they've watched it and they loved it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
It's amazing.
Man.
I wonder if, is it Jeremy?
Jeremy Spear.
I wonder if he gets royalties off of when it's played over and over and over again on YouTube.
Well, I don't know. I'll ask him. He's coming on mid-December, so.
Yeah. Anyway.
Definitely ask him that.
Yeah. Okay.
Another week.
Yeah.
People, subscribe, hit like. I don't know. What else?
Stay safe.
Follow.
Wash your hands.
Oh, by the way, since this is coming out December, we're ending every December podcast with Classified's Christmas song, which is so
good.
awesome.
Yeah.
So
Luke just played, actually. They had a concert in Halifax.
that's right.
And my whole family went. I couldn't go because my wife was at a dance competition and I wasn't going by myself. Anyway, it was unbelievable. My sister-in-laws both went. My brother-in-laws both went. One of my brother-in-laws doesn't remember a thing about it because he got so drunk that he doesn't remember anything, but he's a tit.
Yeah.
But anyway, they said it was absolutely amazing.
Oh, I saw
just to have all the people together.
Yeah.
And,
Well, I saw the footage that Luke put out.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine how pumped he was to get back out there.
They did such a great job.
Oh, he always does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's such an ambassador just to everything that is Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy is amazing. He's so talented and gives back and just, man, I love the guy.
And he's got a new book. Anybody who wants a good read, go out and get his book because I guarantee you're going to read some stuff and you're going to be like,
do you know what it's called, Randy?
It is called, you tell me. What's it called?
I don't know what it's called, Randy.
Man, I forget.
That's classified. Sorry, I can't tell you.
Oh, good one.
Damn.
Good one. But no, actually, I think the other day he put out like a little clip from it, like reading it, and it was awesome. Like stuff he was talking about. You're trying to look it up?
Yeah, you can edit this fucking shit.
No, I'm not editing.
It's called Off the Beat and Path.
Off the Beaten Path. So anybody wants a good read, go get Classified's Off the Beaten Path. I'm sure you'll definitely like it.
Yes.
Anyway, Hopey.
Okay, buddy. See you in fucking 2 days.
All right, buddy.
Take care.
Classified.
All right, kids. Time to get in bed. Santa's coming soon. Okay. Can you read a book? All right, just one story, all right? Here we go.
On a night so silent night, stay by the fire, baby. It's so cold outside.
'Tis the season.
It snows. It's already 10 below. We find the love out here on this Christmas night. The bells are ringing.
Okay, we'll grab the decorations. Don't forget tradition. Baby, it's cold outside. You need to get your mittens. Hang the mistletoe and write your Christmas wishes. It's better to give than receive. Show the kids the difference. Cause this year has been a tough one. I'm just trying to celebrate and spend it with my loved ones. Spread some cheer, pouring festive beer. I appreciate the blessings I was blessed with here. Uncle Chris and Aunt Lee are reminiscing on the front porch. Little Tay-Tay trying to build another snow fort. I hear the church bells ringing. I'll be there Christmas Eve with my family all singing hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I said we be all singing hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I'm saying.
On a night so silent night, stay by the fire, baby. It's so cold outside. We're singing let it snow. 'Cause it's already 10 below. We find the love out here on this Christmas night. The bells are ringing.
Okay, well, I'll be ready with the lights on. Got the decorations up, it's taking me all night long. Log on the fire, put on my ugly sweater. The children
Are you downsizing? Maybe need more room because of additions to the family, or possibly seeking that dream home you've always wanted. Well, Tim Eisner at Royal LePage Atlantic is the guy for you. With a proven track record and multiple awards, Tim goes above and beyond to find out your needs and exactly what you're looking for. So if you're seeking a new home or trying to sell your current one, contact Tim at 902-499-5717 or check him out on Facebook at Tim Eisner. Again, that's 902-499-5717. Trust me, when all is said and done, we'll be saying Tim Eisner strikes again.